What's up, guys? I'm Brandon.
I'm Austin.
And this is our first ever YouTube video brought to you by Gingerbeard Media. We plan to bring you guys a whole bunch of content over the next couple months and hopefully a couple years. But today's topic is going to be... Hold on, wait. First, let's roll the intro. Welcome back, guys. Today, we're going to be talking and making a video about the people who may have just purchased a camera. Maybe you got one for Christmas. Maybe you stole one. I'm not judging. But either way, this is your first experience hands-on with a camera. You don't even know how to really turn it on. And we are here today to help you feel a little bit more comfortable before you just go start rapid fire and taking pictures. So it's your first time hands-on with a camera. I remember the first time I got a camera. When was the first time you got one?
5 years ago.
5 years ago?
Yeah.
Me, not so much. Mine was about 5 months ago. So it's fresh in my mind. Okay? I remember picking this thing up, even the guy at Best Buy selling it to me, and talking to me about what mode I should shoot in and how to put the lenses on, and he may as well have been speaking French because I had no idea. So much as I didn't even know how to operate or use an SD card. That's where I started. So I want to make sure that I'm helping out or making video and we're making content for the people that may be in the same boat. They may have just ever taken pictures on their phones. They may have just had a point shoot camera, or maybe they haven't taken a picture since they had the old, you know, the old, what was that? What
the disposable cameras.
The disposable cameras, where you got them back a week later and you got a bunch of drunk pictures from the beach. But anyway, what were you doing when you first started shooting? Did you go jump straight to manual mode, or did you just kind of go shoot and learn?
So I started out in auto.
Okay.
And then took a class at Hartford Community College and was told if I ever shot in auto again, he was going to break my camera.
Ah.
So he put it in manual, and from there it was smooth sailing.
Okay.
So well, I had the luck of learning from an individual.
Perfect. Me, not so much. It was more of I had to get my camera, open it up, take it out of the box, and then I immediately went and started taking pictures. I had no idea that the kit lens that came with my camera even zoomed. All right, that is how new I was. So I quickly started to dive into it, and I just remember the guy at Best Buy telling me to start shooting in aperture priority mode, which for me or any other Canon user is normally the AV that's going to be on your dial. So you'll see on this, it is on it right now, AV, okay? What that's gonna do is it's going to allow you to only control the aperture of your camera. Do you want to tell them even what aperture is?
So first of all, aperture is going to be labeled as f/ and a number. And it's best compared to the pupil that you have in your eye. So we're going to compare, the lower the number is like your eye in darkness. It's wide open, it can take in a lot of light, and it helps you see a lot more. And then the higher the number is, like f/22 or 16, the smaller it gets and the less amount of light is allowed to come in. Now that's important because it controls the depth of field of your background, and it shows you what is going to be in or out of focus.
Also, aperture is a really good control of light allowed into the lens, like what you were saying. So what's going to happen is if you're shooting in a low light situation, such as nighttime, or the most ideal time to shoot street photography, if that's what you're into, or even a nighttime portrait, that would be in the darkness, and not complete dark, but where it's only lit by maybe the street signs or any light that is surrounding, even maybe the moon. And the lower that you have that number, which means the larger your aperture is. See, that's where it can get a little confusing. The lower the number on the screen, the more wide open the lens is. That is going to allow you to get more light into the picture, and it's going to make a more crisp, even, nice, sharp image. Now, I've had issues when I first got a camera where the lens that I got with it, I think the lowest that it went was maybe a 3.5 or maybe even 4.5. And that is not considered a very low number. That will take very good, clear images in the middle of the day. It'll do something really nice if you're in a good lit situation, and you'll be able to get a clean, crisp image. You're not gonna really get that blown out background from that, where if I'm taking a portrait and I want just the subject to be in focus and everything else is gonna be a little blurry, that's not gonna happen. But what happens is, as you gain a little bit more knowledge and you start to invest a little bit more money into the craft, you can buy these lenses that are, yes, some of them are ungodly expensive, but some of them are not. And we'll talk about what are some cost-friendly options if you just want to take some higher quality images. But what will happen is that aperture number gets a little bit lower, and then you're able to get that blown out background, and just what's in focus is very crisp, sharp, and you'll still be able to do that in some low light. But what we're gonna focus on talking about today is just aperture, because if I were to recommend one thing, it would be to put your camera in aperture priority mode and just go shoot. Go start taking pictures. And as that feels more comfortable and you learn about what the aperture can do, then you move on to everything else, which would be your shutter speed and your ISO, which we're gonna have 2 other videos about coming soon. So if you want to know some situations about where you would need to control the aperture to one extreme or another, here's a certain situation or 2 examples at one to the complete other end. If you want to shoot at a very low number, meaning that you're just going to have in focus whatever your camera is solely focused on, and everything else will be blown out, that would be a good time if you're shooting a portrait, or if you're just taking a picture of a flower, or there's a really just consolidated one item that you're trying to single out other than everything else. So if you've ever seen modeling pictures or headshots or anything like that, you're not going to have all this other distraction behind you. You're just going to have the subject and whatever that camera is looking at, and everything else is just going to be kind of existing. Now, on the other end of it, if you want to do landscape photography, if you're taking a picture of a beautiful mountainside, or you're taking a picture of a stream and a river or rolling hills that are going on, you don't want to just be focusing on a small chunk of grass in the middle of that image. You want everything to be popping out. You want to be able to see and understand that full scene. So you would go ahead and roll that number all the way up to roughly 14, 16, maybe even 20, depending on what you want to learn to do with it. And you can really get a sharp image of everything that the camera sees. Now, one way that you can use aperture priority is to crank that number all the way down, the lowest that your lens will allow you to go. The lens is what's going to dictate how much light is let into the camera. So that is why some lenses are extremely expensive, and that's why some are not. Okay, the lower the number that the lens will go, the more money you're probably going to spend on it. So for instance, this lens right here is an 85mm fixed focal length, all right, or prime lens, and it is a 1.4, which is a fairly low, or pretty damn low aperture, okay? And what that's gonna allow me to do is really turn that down and only focus on the subject that I want to shoot. Now, here's an example of a photo that you took, all right, that we'll put right here.
I shot this image with a 50mm 1.8.
Which is a low.
Yeah, it's super low. With shooting at 1.8, it allows you to put your focus on your subject and blur out your background and make it look like a silky, smooth look to it. And because of how soft the light is at 1.8, you see with the lights in the background, it makes it a circle, and we call that bokeh. But now here is a completely different contrast of the image, which Brandon shot.
Yeah, and so this image I took with the complete opposite of the f-stop. I took this, I think, at a f20. So that's almost at another end of the extreme that a lens will go to. This is down in the city of Havre de Grace. It's at a pier, and I wanted to be able to capture the whole scene. And what happens, since we have so much coming into to play when it comes to detail, we were actually able to capture the sun and make it have those sun rays like you see in this picture. So what normally would just be this little fluffy ball, if shot on yours, turns into this beautiful sunburst in mine. Now, you'll notice even if you look at the corners of the image, everything is in detail. If you were to look down at the water, or you were to look up at the boardwalk, there's not any of it that is not in detail. It's all there, it's in focus, it's having focus on the whole image. And what the difference is is just really what kind of story you're trying to tell with your picture. If he were to take a picture of Austin with the same f-stop that I did, you would be very distracted. You would know that he's there, you would know he's the subject, but you would also be paying attention to anything else in the background. You really wouldn't know. If there was a man on a bike in the back, you would have to see it, and it could be distracting. What being able to shoot down and only tell the story of what you're trying to tell with that can kind of hide some flaws also in your picture.
That's going to be the most important part of you going out and shooting is look around, see something that's interesting to you. It doesn't matter if you have just that kit lens and the only thing you can shoot at is 3.5. Just go out at a time of day where there's enough light to shoot. Use your lens and use your camera as an extension of you to tell your story.
So guys, I know that at the beginning of this video we talked about how expensive some of these lenses could be. Yeah, we talked about what you could be looking to spend. I know that a lens like this may cost you anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000, and that is only for one focal length. You're only going to get 85 millimeters, and it's just doing one job. And you buy that because you're paying for the aperture. Now, if you are looking to purchase your first lens, or you're looking to kind of delve into what you want to be doing with photography, I highly recommend, and I think you would too, is buying the 50 millimeter 1.8. I know they have a wide array of options for all different camera types. I've seen them for Sony, I've seen them for Nikon, I've seen them for Canon, and they're all at the same price point. They're only from maybe $150 to $200, and it's really going to allow you to take some all-star images. So essentially what Austin just showed you about that portrait, that was taken at 50 millimeter at 1.8. And that way you guys can go out, you can play with the extremes of what that lens is gonna do while staying in aperture priority and see how much an image can change just by learning that one small detail on your camera. So today, guys, the only thing we wanted to cover was aperture. I don't want to be giving you guys so much information at once that you go out and you're still just as confused as you were when you bought the camera. So go out, toy around with it, shoot at one extreme, shoot at another extreme, see how your image looks. And remember, at the end of the day, it's not what anybody else thinks about your picture, it's about what you're doing. It's your picture, it's the picture that you took, and it needs to be a representation of how you want that image to be seen. So learn what that is, go out there, and by all means, the only way to get better, and I know that you'll agree with me on this, is just go shoot.
Hit that like button.
Subscribe,
ring the bell with the gong.
Bong. Do the stuff that makes us be able to continue making videos. Thank you.